It's the annual Barclays Consumer Staples Conference, where a lot of CEOs and a lot of, mm, let's say, uh, financial investors, analysts meet and discuss. I wasn't there, but I went through a lot of the materials and the reporting about the event, and I've identified some insights which I think are important and are going to shape the narrative of consumer goods for at least the next 12 months. Now, in a nutshell, not a lot of good news, to be honest with you. Uh, Spending is flat, volumes are down, and of course, we keep seeing price hikes, which are not really driving growth because they are impacting volumes negatively. What's happening? Consumers are under pressures. The spending basket is flat, volumes are declining, and the reliance on price increases is really dreadful from a consumer point of view. Now, while everybody is claiming that price increases are not the way to go to drive growth, that doesn't mean there isn't going to be more price increases in the next future, because they are just a reaction to inflationary events, which of course keep happening and keep happening for a number of external shocks, geopolitical, logistics, weather, you name it. Shoppers are trading down. Smaller packs, cheaper variant. For the time being, and this is the claim from the CEOs of these large corporations, they're sticking to trusted brands. They choose familiarity over private label. And so, according to them, private label share, it's flat. So consumers look for value, but of course, stick with familiar and trusted brands. On the other end, though, what is also happening is that longer term, by cutting investments, there is a risk that consumers will accelerate their switching towards private labels. Not surprisingly at all for me, because the ones of you who have been following me for a while know that I've been talking about that for a long time. Trade promotions are not effective any longer. First of all, companies have a bad habit of not tracking trade promotions at all and the real impact, except in sales. But what's happening is that incremental sales are not driven by all this trade spending for a number of reasons. And the easiest one to understand is that consumers are used to them. They understand they're coming. And so they're delaying purchases for certain categories until their familiar brands are on sale. And so no incremental volumes are driven by those trade promotions, which basically means that consumers expect brands to be more creative, to be able to, give in on this now established routine. What surprised me is the talk about premium and value tiers. Consumers are basically polarizing even further the market, either towards more premium offering or towards private labels. That means that premiumization as such is not over, despite the crisis and despite the demand going down, which is an opportunity, but it's also a threat, because companies needs to stop focusing only on the top of the pyramid and need to have a strategy, a dual strategy, to be able to address both tiers of consumptions. The ones of you who've been following me for a while know that portfolio discipline, it's happening. I refer to it as shrinking for growth, trying to divest more brands. Of course, all the assets which are not priority in that sense. But at the same time, an interesting event or something to notice, and nota bene, so to speak, investors are raising warnings about overpruning the portfolios, because while in the short terms it helps, it actually creates competitive gaps in the medium and longer term. On the other hand, in terms of M&A, and we have seen a recent Pepsi Celsius deal in that case, rather than promoting very big transactions, there is going to be an appetite for more partnership style, let's say, collaborations. Exactly like Pepsi and Celsius, in a way that the big, of course, problem with transactions, the cost cutting, the synergies building, and so on and so forth, are delayed in the future, and they can see whether this is a fit and they can work together before actually doing a purchase at all. There is, of course, a lot of focus on emerging markets, India, China, Latin America, but not a lot of companies are getting it right, because, first of all, you needed an embedded strategy. You can't do that from your headquarters in North America or in Europe. You need to have local teams with local decision powers. You need to have local supply chains, and you need to have the ability to have right margin, right pricing, operational capacity and capability locally to develop your flywheel of marketing for those products. Because to become and be mass, you have to, of course, to be able to do that accordingly. Finally, operational efficiency is emerging, of course, as a key driver for marginality. But the truth of the matter is that, and the interesting part, those savings, the investors want them to be reinvested actually in growth initiatives, invested in brands. And this is new. So we're not supporting dividends. We don't have to cut costs only exclusively to return money to investors. Think about medium and longer term. And hopefully this will remove some of the short-termism in the industry. Many new insights, some of them surprising, some of them effective. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, and I look forward to talking to you soon.